let's go ahead and look at an example of how I would process a photo. Launch Lightroom, pick a catalog. I figure if I can get it out there and show people, then I can get feedback, because honestly, I don't know if I'm doing it the most efficient way there is, but I'm doing it the same way I would do it in my traditional darkroom. So this will be how I correct a landscape photograph. I go into develop mode and reset this, because I think I might have already started on this one. That's a big history. So this is my New Zealand collection. It's 538 photos out of a couple thousand that I've chosen to process. For this photo, let's just go through it. First thing I'm going to do is look at the temp. The temp doesn't look that bad, but oftentimes after I process a photo and I come back to it a few days later, I don't like the overall color cast, or I notice there's a tint. You can use the eyedropper if you think you've found 18% gray somewhere in the photo, and do that, and it'll auto set it. So the best way to get accurate white balance would be to shoot every photo with an 18% gray card and then use the eyedropper in Lightroom, but that's not possible. Some photographers say they do that, but they don't do it every time. 5,000 to 5,500 will be good for daylight. 5,500 Kelvin is pretty much perfect daylight. Let's see what it looks like with the daylight. I think that's fine. We'll just leave it like that. The histogram shows that we've clipped out some of the blacks. I'm going to drag those in. The histogram also shows that we have a lot of image data with highlights, but not a lot of highlights. It's probably mostly alluding to this sign. Let's see if we can bring the highlights down, make the sign a little bit more visible. We can. I also see some chromatic aberration here on this sign, so I'm going to go into the lens correction, and I'm actually not going to fix the distortion or the vignetting, because this was with my 24 to 70, and it's spot on, so we're just going to go and adjust the color. Click that, chromatic aberration goes away. Sharpening, I do about 56. That gets it to about what your camera would do to the JPEG if you were shooting in JPEG mode. Remember, I'm shooting RAW, so the camera's software has not acted on this image in any way. Nothing has been adjusted in camera like it is when you shoot JPEGs. It automatically adjusts the contrast and the saturation. I don't like how dark these bushes are. I'm going to bring them up a little bit. We're going to do that with the shadows. And then I want to get a little bit more intimate with the crop. Actually, not yet. I want to fix this color, not color shift, this density shift in the sky, where it's much darker blue on the left than it is on the right. I'm going to use a graduated filter for that. I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit, maybe 22, and put that right about there. That'll clean that up. The sky will be a little bit more even. And then I'm going to crop in to get a little bit more intimate. Maybe put the mailbox at the intersection there to obey the rule of thirds. Draw the eye to that location, make it more interesting. And that's about it. The 24 to 70 with the polarizer that I use makes the skies really dark blue. One thing I am going to do is drop the luminance a little bit of the blue channel, 10 points. That'll make it look good. Let me double check the blacks, just so I can get it just exactly perfect. And actually, you don't have to adjust via histogram, that as your guide. Some images will have perfect black in them, and some will have perfect white in them, and then it's okay to be, to the sides on either end. So I'm not prescribing that this is the way you should adjust your photography. For example, this has lost quite a bit in the highlights, but I'm not going to bother to try and regain all of it. I just want to regain enough so that this sign is readable. And that's it, really, for a landscape photograph. Let's look at, this was an easy one. There really wasn't much wrong with it. Let's look at one that I perhaps had to do a lot more to. Like, for example, let's look at this bad boy. Backslash on your keyboard, under your backspace key, toggles your before and after preview. They call that proofing mode. But that was the original image. The sun hitting the lens directly, prevented the camera from figuring out the white balance correctly, gave it a really blue cast. But there's a lot more than that. You know, if you look at this image, it's got, you know, graduated filters being applied, because generally with landscape, the farther away the subject is, the more atmosphere you have to shoot through, and the bluer the image will be. It's got one of those. It's probably, luckily it doesn't have any adjustment brushes put on it, but, you know, you can see here that I desaturated the plants a little bit. They were just too orange. But that's